Hey. Hi. Yeah. Remember when I said that I was going to start doing sober takes? Well, this is the first one. And I wanted to do an episode on this particularly because it's recent and I think it'll be interesting to explore. Sorry if I sound hungover. I am, but I'm sober. So there's that. I'm drinking coffee. There's nothing crazy going on here. So that's what we're going to do here. I swear to drunk, I'm not. God is going to be me getting fucked up. The sober take is going to be me after I've been fucked up. Okay. So I'm going to sip my coffee. Hold on. Cause you know what we're talking about, but you don't at the same time. Before we start, this isn't gossip. This isn't conspiracy, and this isn't about who you like, who you stream, whose music you've got on repeat. This is not about that. This is about the federal lawsuit that pretty much asks a simple question. What happens when a crypto casino markets itself as free, uses celebrities to normalize gambling losses, and quietly doubles as a money-moving machine? We're going to talk about the case against Drake and Adin Ross, because according to this complaint, what looks like entertainment might actually be illegal gambling, deceptive marketing, and a financial pipeline for doing bot buying. I don't even know what to call this, right? But this is just the filing. We're just going to talk about that. Nothing super crazy. I want to make it simple, 30 minutes maybe. And let's just dive into this, okay? Having looked at the lawsuit, it is one of those things that I would also like to say, full disclosure, I'm not anti-Drake in that I hate some of his songs. Am I an avid listener of Drake? No, I am a Kendrick girl, but two things can exist in the same space, in my opinion. You can like Drake, you can like Kendrick. It's okay. Nobody's going to murder you. All right. But I think that it's important to make that distinction because this has turned into a very divisive beef. I remember when I was in high school, I was actually just talking about this with my homeboy last night. I remember when I was in high school and Jay-Z and Nas were beefing. And Jay-Z and Nas beefing, I was on the Stillmatic side. I just prefer Nas lyrically. I thought Ether was better than Takedown, even though Takeover, even though I like Takeover. I thought Stillmatic was a better album than Blueprint. But even though I like Blueprint, you see what I'm saying? Like, it was just like, beefs are what they are. And I think this has turned into a much bigger issue unnecessarily. We didn't have to go here. Like, not to say that he wouldn't have had this class action complaint regardless, but I do believe that this is my personal opinion, I do believe Drake's attack on UMG opened him up for shenanigans that maybe he would have been able to avoid just simply had he just shut the fuck up. So in this sober take, we're breaking down a newly filed federal class action lawsuit that alleges that Stake.us is operating as an illegal online casino in the United States while marketing itself as a, quote, safe and free social gaming platform. Now, this document is dated New Year's Eve, and it is citing Lashana Ridley and Tiffany Hines, Stake US users within the United States, individually and on behalf of all others similarly situated. And the defendants are Sweepstakes Ltd, DBA, doing business as, Stake.us, Aubrey Drake Graham, known as Drake, Adin Ross, and George Wynn. Okay. Now, according to the complaint, Stake.us uses a two-currency system, which I knew nothing about this. So I had to learn about what this was. Me and my mom had to dive into this. So they use a two-currency system, which is gold coins and stake cash. Critics are arguing that it disguises real money gambling, allowing users to wager and cash out in ways that may violate state and federal law. And this was brought up in the Eastern District of Virginia. Now, the lawsuit claims this design specifically targets U.S. consumers, including users in Virginia, where online casinos are prohibited. And the case also names Drake and Adin Ross, alleging they were paid promoters who live streamed gambling activity using funds supplied by the platform itself and encouraging fans to gamble while masking the real financial risk. Okay. And now I don't know anything about Adin Ross either. Other than the fact that he was getting in trouble with Roc Nation for Meg Thee Stallion shit. I know he's kind of racist. I don't pay attention to streamers like that. Like, I run into videos about them, but honestly, I don't, other than him being like just a regular internet asshole, I don't really know much about him. But I do know that he seems to be very close with Drake. Now, the most serious allegation goes further. The lawsuit claims that Stake.US's internal tipping system functioned as an unregulated money transfer network allegedly used to route funds between influencers and third parties to finance artificial music streaming, botting campaigns, and online amplification. Now, this quietly manipulates the charts, the algorithms, and perceived popularity for Drake. Now, plaintiffs are seeking class certification, restitution, treble damages under RICO statutes, and injunctive relief that should shut down the platform's U.S. operations. Now, what is a treble damage under a RICO statute? So we all know what RICO is. It's the Racketeer, Influenced, and Corrupt Organizations Act. This statute basically is saying that to recover treble damages, which is 3 times their actual damages, plus attorney fees and court costs for injuries to their business or property caused by racketeering activities, making it a potent tool for deterring white-collar crime and fraud by significantly increasing defendant liability. Because I know we tend to have very gang, feelings about RICOs. Like we like to think about a RICO like it's a mob, because 90% of back in the day, this is something that came out of, the mob, right? But when you think about what racketeering is just an organized crime where people are setting up a fraudulent scheme, or which would be called a racket, or they're extorting people. Racketeering is not just like, oh, I'm a mobster or I'm a gangbanger and I'm doing X, Y, and Z. And organized crime is just that. I think we've associated organized crime too much with drugs or the mob or whatever. Like when the P. Diddy thing came up, everybody was like, well, why is it a RICO statute? That had always irritated me, because while RICO charges, the burden is pretty insane. You have to prove a pattern of racketeering. And if I'm not mistaken, it's like within like 10 years or some shit. And racketeering activity could easily be kidnapping, gambling, arson, murder, extortion, like selling drugs. Like it could be a lot of things. So just to pull back for a minute with the P. Diddy case was one that was like, for me, a person who reads crime books, I'm like, okay, well, this makes sense. Because one, this was very organized. He had a web of people. There was a system in place, a group of people that were engaging in activities. He kind of couldn't do it by himself, right? While I know it's hard to prove, especially if you don't have witnesses that are credible, especially if you don't have a lot of evidence that will make something like that stick, it makes sense he didn't get charged with a RICO. But at the same time, it, to me, made sense that he would get hit with a RICO if all of what they were saying was true. That's just my opinion. But as far as this is concerned, this is another one of those instances where you have multiple players engaging in financial crime, not so much extorting people, but this is a gambling racket at the end of the day. And so what I'm trying to say is that this is not something that you should just gloss over, regardless of who, you like to listen to. This is something that these influencers and these rappers, especially when they engage in online shenanigans, they need to think about. Media literacy, you cannot just support anything because you need some coin right now. Like, did you talk to your attorneys? Did you talk to your management team? Did you talk to these people? And I think social media and podcasting and streaming has created this avenue of very inexperienced people with no real representation. And not having the appropriate representation sometimes leads to things like this, where you fall into hustles, even if you didn't mean to, just to extend some grace, even if you didn't mean to, because most of us aren't well versed in contract law, tax law. He's a foreigner as well. He may not even be well versed in how these things are supposed to work, So I think that is me just basically offering my little olive branch of like, this could also have happened because of ignorance. But let's talk about stake.us because I knew nothing about it. It is an online social casino. It operates in the US. It is affiliated with international crypto casino stake.com. Never heard of that either. Now, stake.us calls itself a free-to-play social gaming platform. So users are not, quote unquote, gambling because they're playing with virtual currency. And stake.us runs casino style games. So like slots, blackjack, roulette, dice, right? And it uses this two currency system, which is gold coins and stake cash. Now, gold coins, there's no cash value. It's decorative, right? And stake cash comes bundled when the users buy gold coins, and they can be wagered on games and can be redeemed for real money or crypto, which to me, to the government, turns this into a huge issue because you can, if you have a social media game, like let's take, for example, these small games like Candy Crush or King's Landing or things like that. If you buy packages for weapons or buy packages for extra coins or extra, whatever to play the game so you can win without having to start over or whatever, if those things that you were purchasing were able to be redeemed or converted into a real value, that's gambling. Courts and regulators look at whether something can be converted into real value. That's the key. So this stake cash, which can be redeemed for real money or crypto, is part of the problem. If you pay money, you risk something of value and you can cash out. And many states consider that gambling, regardless of what you call it. Stake.us is the US complaint workaround for stake.com, which is blocked and restricted in many American jurisdictions. So they're basically like, here's a game with tokens that may later become money. And they say that instead of saying, this is a fucking casino. Like, it's just a casino. How people use it. So, users buy gold coins. They receive stake cash as bonus. They gamble with stake cash. They cash out the winnings. They lose real money if they lose. And that's what the lawsuits argue, is that it's real gambling in disguise. So stake.us basically pays the influencers and celebrities to live stream gambling, to promote the wins. Promoting the wins and seeing celebrities with money and being like, yeah, I play stake and I won and blah, blah, blah. That they didn't normalize how large the losses were, though. You make it look casual and fun and free and risk-free, but at the same time, you're kind of just like extorting people. So the lawsuit claims that these bets were often funded by the platform itself, not the celebrities. What? Something that the regular users don't even get. So because stake.us is targeting US users, they're also allowing cash wagers, and they're operating in states where online casinos are illegal. Then you're violating state gambling laws, you're violating consumer protection laws, and you're violating federal statutes. Now, me and my mom talked about this. This really isn't a federal, it's a class action complaint. That's what this is. Quote, plaintiffs Lashana Ridley and Tiffany Hines, by and through their attorneys, bring this action individually and on behalf of others similarly situated against defendants Sweepstakes, Aubrey Graham, Adin Ross, and George Wynn. Plaintiffs make the following allegations upon information and belief. In parentheses, accept those allegations as to the plaintiffs or their attorneys, which are based on personal knowledge. This consumer class action seeks to stop stake.us, an illegal online gambling platform promoted by Drake, Ross, and Wynn, and used by Drake, Ross, and Wynn to obscure transmission of money in furtherance of their ongoing music botting campaigns, from continuing to prey upon consumers and to impose civil penalties on all defendants to deter future misconduct. So we talked about, me and my mom were like trying to figure out, like, what exactly is this? You know, is this truly federal, or is this something that's just happening in Virginia? Can this turn into something bigger? Is Drake going to go to jail? Part of this is federal. The lawsuits involving stake.us is filed in federal court, which means that federal law is at play. But that is along state law. It's federal because the plaintiffs have invoked RICO. RICO is a federal statute. But once RICO is alleged, the case belongs in federal court, period. And that gives the court's jurisdiction over a lot of things: digital platforms, crossing state lines, crossing of state lines, like federal murder. Like if you kill somebody in Virginia, kill somebody in Chicago, kill somebody in Philly, kill somebody in California, the FBI is looking for you. It went from state and local to the FBI looking for you. And alleged enterprises involving multiple actors, interstate activity, but federal laws are implicated, right? The federal RICO conspiracy, federal jurisdiction is based on interstate commerce. So state law, even though it's federal court, the case also uses state gambling and consumer protection laws in Virginia. So federal court is where the case lives. State law is part of what's being enforced. But it's really just civil litigation. It's not criminal in that, like, Drake's probably going to go to jail. Right. And so that's one thing to just like note, because I know social media is kind of like running with it. And I'm sure a lot of people are like, Drake about to go to jail. And I guess it just ultimately is going to depend on how far and how big this goes. I mean, to me, it does not look great. It doesn't look great from several standpoints, to be totally honest, because you've been ripping off people to buy bots when you were just in a beef where you were complaining about a network, a studio, a production company buying bots, which in discovery, they ended up finding out that really they were helping you too, which would explain Spotify consumers their complaint about why is Drake in my country music playlist? Why is Drake popping up in my Christmas playlist? I never asked to listen to Drake. Like, why is he in my playlist? Now, the interesting part about all this on a metaphysical level is the fact that it has brought out a lot of what people who do not like Drake already has suspected about him. It's brought out what the industry is willing to do to remain on top. It brought out that he is indeed not like us. Like, it's brought out a lot. And I think that is the very just like interesting part about this from that standpoint. From a legal standpoint, he's digging himself into a deeper hole. You're supposed to walk away from a beef. You're not supposed to sue over it and open yourself up to litigation. You especially with a behemoth like Universal Music Group. And I know people are like, he has a right to defend himself, X, Y, and Z. He does. But if you know that they're doing that for you, why are you even bringing that out in the forefront? Because we weren't suspecting that there were any bots being used. Well, some people were, but during the beef, like, was that even part of the public discourse at that time? It wasn't, because Drake has always been popular. Nobody's assuming that Drake is like faking his numbers, and nobody was assuming that Universal was faking their numbers, which to me in itself is also very illegal. We're talking about Drake, buying bots through the tipping company. Sure. But let's talk about bots. And let's talk about the fact that a major institution is able to buy bots and transfer that into cash. Because doesn't streaming numbers ultimately lead to monetary gain? Now, most people would consider that marketing, but that's not. That's market manipulation. You're throwing an artist in people's faces that are not asking to listen to this man. And that's not the same as a commercial, not the same as, it's not advertising. It's kind of almost, it feels like insider trading. It feels like a finesse. You ploop. I don't even listen to hip hop, but bloop, I'm gonna plop some Drake in there because you may decide that you like him. You force feeding people artists. There was a time when, and obviously you could skip. Why is Drake still on my playlist? You can skip. It's in your control. It's not like they're forcing you to listen to the music, right? But at the same time, like, people who want to listen to Drake will seek Drake out. If he's so good, he's so popular. Same thing with Kendrick. If Kendrick is so good and so popular and with everything, all the accolades and all of the skill, if these people are good, why do you have to force feed them to people? So back to the lawsuit. The celebrities being involved with this is a problem, right? Like, because you're using what people, deem as trustworthy individuals to push something that's criminal. And the bigger question is, how aware are these celebrities? Now, as far as this tipping is concerned, on stake.us, tipping let one user transfer stake cash directly to another user inside the platform, right? Now, it feels like a social feature. It's like a way to reward other players. It's super harmless in the game. It functions like a peer-to-peer money transfer. But how it really works is that a user buys gold coins. Stake.us bundles it into stake cash, and stake cash can be wagered or transferred through tipping. One user sends stake cash to another, and the receiving user can gamble it, or, big part, redeem it for real money or crypto. That's it. That's the flame that lights this thing up. Gambling and payment platforms usually can track transfers. They can report suspicious activity. They can limit, movement. And they, comply with all sorts of rules. But this lawsuit is saying that the tipping bypasses all of those safeguards. So Stake.us allegedly created a closed system where value can move between users without the bank scrutiny or payment apps, which is what Bitcoin does anyway, right? The plaintiffs claim that the tipping was used to move large sums between accounts, to pay third parties quietly, to avoid traditional banks, and to create a shadow payment, excuse me, inside the casino. And that's why the tipping part is a big piece of the RICO allegation, because it's so much coordination. Influencers allegedly received state cash. That state cash was tipped to people in the in-between, and the in-between people allegedly paid those bot farms or, clipping services. And the streaming numbers were artificially inflated. Who knows? That may not go anywhere, but the tipping is the issue. This isn't a gaming feature, right? It's supposed to be purely cosmetic. And if that were the case, then there would be no case. But because state cash can be cashed out, tipping becomes economically meaningful. It's fake, but somewhere somebody's eating with other people's money. It looks like a private money moving system, laundering, if you will. So it's not a good look. It's not a good look no matter how you spin this. Even if it goes absolutely nowhere, it's not a good thing. So the takeaway here is that Stake.us isn't illegal because it's crypto based or because it's flashy, whatever. It's because it acts like gambling when it's not supposed to be. So I thought this was really interesting to look at, because I was like, what now? Like, what is he doing now? Like, what is happening? And at the end of the day, it's like the celebrities in this part, I do want to say too, the celebrities acting like losing big is just like a part of it, meanwhile getting tips and using that to launder money for bots and like boosting Drake and all this other. It's just so nefarious, but whatever. This case is early, there's no guilt decided. But even in the court of public opinion, this doesn't look good. And even if half of this survives discovery, the music industry, the streaming services, and the influencer casinos, maybe they'll be shaken up. Who knows? But celebrities like promoting crypto casinos is giving pandemic. Honestly, it's it was cute a little while ago, but at this point, it's like, whatever. Whatever, right? So this is my sober take. I just wanted to bust through. Obviously, I'm not going to read all 22 pages of this complaint, but I'm a keep watching this. I'm interested in seeing how this develops. And I'm going to try to do sober takes more often in between episodes, because I do need to make some more content. And I've kind of been promising to do that for a while now. Sometimes you just got to kind of see what you feel like doing. And I work best when it like hits my spirit and I'll just do it, than for me to, sounds fucked up, but like for me to plan, it's like, man plans, God laughs. Be for real, So anyway, I'll see you. My next episode drops this Thursday, January 8th. I hope you enjoy that episode. It's very Chicago based. I think it'll be a fun listen. And this is my sober take. I'll see you next time. Bye.